Hello, hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lucas Chong from Select Property Group, UK developer, and thank you everyone for taking the time to join us this evening. Today we'll be discussing a very hot topic in the market today, which is how can Asian investors take advantage of the low GBP to invest in the UK property market. And today I'm also very delighted to have invited Bianca, Head of Sales of Southeast Asia from GetGround to share with us on company holding for those who are keen to explore purchasing properties under a UK company and the tax benefits that follows it. So without further ado, let's look at the agenda of our webinar today. So first we'll look at the exchange rate benefits. How does GBP compares to Singapore dollars and Malaysian ringgit in today's market, and how you can capitalize on these exchange currency differences. We'll look into the savings on tax, especially in stamp duty, from the recent announcement from the mini budget for UK property stamp duty cut. We'll also look at the effect of the current market on the rental market and how rental demands and rates actually source from this. And of course, we'll look into the benefits of company holding. We'll also take a deeper dive into the hotspots to invest in UK and how we can capitalize on the master plans, the priority master plans that is ongoing by the UK government at the moment. And last but not least, we will share the details of our latest very exciting development, Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf, which is located in Prime City Centre, Birmingham. So in terms of investment, I believe for all of us, it is about entering low in terms of your capital of investment and your cost of investment, and of course exiting at the higher range, and that's how we gain the profit, the capital growth there. And of course, in the meantime, we gain from rental yield and growing rental rates from year to year. And especially for international investors, we do have the benefit of gaining that exchange currency differences. And for most of us who are exploring investing in overseas or in the UK, we would be aware that the GBP is currently at one of the lowest point. In fact, it has fallen to a 40-year low against Singapore dollars and ringgit Malaysian, more than 20% since the start of the year. And what this means to investors is that your cost of investment is lowered because, of course, you're buying the property at the stronger currency in your home country. At today's market, we are looking at a GBP to Singapore dollars at 1.6 and to ringgit Malaysia is about 5.3, whereas it is higher months before this. So based on a typical apartment in Birmingham, for example, we are actually looking at 100,000 more affordable in terms of quantum than purchased previously. So this is a very good advantage, for you to enter the market because you're entering at a very low point, and this opportunity doesn't happen all the time. It happens once in every decade. And of course, when you hold your property, be it mid-term or long-term, I would advise to exit at the higher rate. So apart from the capital gain that you are getting from the growth of the market, economy, and the property, you also gain from the currency exchange gain when the GBP has rise back up. These are two benefits or two gains for you to enter the market today. So very much good value for your investment as compared to many options out there. So this is something actually a lot of international buyers are currently rushing into the market to capitalize on these low exchange rate at the moment. And, we may think, how long would this last, or would GBP continue to fall again? Looking at the UK market historically at a wider picture, UK has historically proven to be one of the most stable country, politically and economically as well. And UK property, in fact, has proven to be one of the most stable property market across the world for the past decade, despite financial crisis, despite Brexit, and despite pandemic as well. And why is that so? We often need to look into how important, is this to the UK government and the government's intentions and response to these market situations. So UK property has always been a very important factor to the country, which is why, as we have seen, the government has always been taking very swift measures, very quick measures to keep the pounds backed up and to drive the inflation down. So it always falls back to what the government, how fast would they react to this one? So how long is a window of opportunity? And as we're not surprised, from what we see, the Bank of England is actually committed to buy 65 billion pounds of UK bonds to actually stem the rout. So this is essentially a small window for you to take advantage of entering at such a low GBP. We have seen a slight rise up of GBP after these measures is taken. So for those who are keen to benefit or capitalize on low GBP, it would be a good time to enter the market now. And of course, apart from exchange currency gain, another bonus I would say for entering now would be the recent announcement on stamp duty cut by the UK government. So here is a summary of the stamp duty cut from the recent mini budget in September 2022, where the measures increases the residential new tax rate threshold from £125,000 to £250,000. So what this means is that a larger amount of your property price falls under the lower stamp duty rate. The new threshold for first-time buyer relief is increased from £300,000 to £425,000, and the maximum amount that an individual can pay while remaining eligible for the first-time buyer's relief is increased to £625,000. And the most relevant measures to most international buyers would be the first point. So that actually lowers your stamp duty rate based on today's rate as well. So here I put together a estimated stamp duty based on previous rates and based on current rates. And for those who are newer to the UK market, the stamp duty in UK are tiered by amount. So it has always been low to start with. We are looking at average about 6 to 7% stamp duty for cities like Manchester and Birmingham, which are top growing. As compared to Singapore, I believe now for the stamp duty rate, it has increased further in terms of ABSD. So with original stamp duty being low, the recent cut has even lowered that stamp duty. So now we are looking at between, I would say, 5 to 6% on average, depending on your property prices. Basing on a £300,000 property here, previous calculation would be looking at 25,000 in terms of stamp duty. And with the new measures, we're looking at just 22,500 pounds for stamp duty. So a good savings, a good bonus there, which lowered your cost of investment. And just bearing in mind, as this is a developing news as well, recently Chancellor Jeremy has also announced potential reversal of the some of the measures from the mini budget. So we are also monitoring this as we speak. But with lowered exchange currency and lowered stamp duty, that means lowered cost of investment to you, and in terms higher return on investment for you. And I believe most of us who are exploring UK market now would have some of these questions in mind. How is the market performing currently? How is it responding to these measures? Should I take advantage of the current market opportunities, or should I sit back, wait and see? And what is the effect of the recent changes to the market as well? And today we'll be discussing this as well. I believe there is some speculations from different parties, but looking at this objectively, we can also assess, if this is the timing that is suitable for you to enter the market as well. And when we talk about it's now a good time to enter the UK property market, or even if we say it's now a good time to enter into Singapore market, to Malaysia market, when is the best time to buy property? There is no best time when we buy property, right? I believe most of us can agree that, despite financial crisis, despite pandemic, despite the Brexit as well, despite market fluctuations, there is no best time to enter the market. When is the lowest point to enter the market? So it's really down to individual situation as well as for market sentiments, assessing whether your investment plan is to hold it short term, mid-term or long-term as well, and how much would these factors affect your investment on the period of holding that you are looking at. And for most of us, I would say for property holding, it would be a holding of mid to long term. And UK has historically proven to be one of the most stable market for property growth for the past decade. So if you look at the past 10 to 20 years time, UK market has been one of the most stable in terms of growth as well, steadily growing over time. Also because politically, economically, it is a very stable country, which is why it is one of the most popular country for foreign investors to look into. Despite the flexibility of rules as well. And, despite small variables from financial crisis, Brexit, and pandemic, property market is showing positive growth on a wider outlook. Now, this is not the first time we have seen interest rate to increase or inflation to happen. We've seen that over cycles as well. And even during financial crisis, Brexit, pandemic, these small variables, they do happen in a property market. And from what we see, the northern countries, which are heavily supported by the UK government, the price has never dropped despite pandemic or Brexit or financial crisis. It continues to be stable. In fact, the growth in Manchester, Birmingham last year has increased well. Same for the increase in rental rate as well. And why is that so? Because oftentimes when market uncertainties happen, currency is the first to react or to take the hit from it. And then the next will be stocks and shares that will be affected by any market uncertainties. And the last sector to be affected by these are often property, because property are fundamentally still down to demand and supply. And especially for property on the more premium side, not so much of council housing, they are the last to take the hit, and oftentimes they are not affected by these market uncertainties as well. In fact, it also benefits from this, because when purchasing power is low for the local buyers, more people are looking to rent. So in essence, that increase the rental demand in the market and increase you as an international buyers. And cities under the priority regeneration area, as we have seen, billions have been put into such master plan. They are ongoing. So they oversee the effect from any small variables in the market. But of course, as investors, I believe some of us would be concerned of, it's now a good time still. I mean, should I wait and see as well? But what I would say is that, what are we waiting for, right? Are we waiting for prices to drop? Because it will not drop. And if you think of it, if there is no inflation, if there is no interest rate increment, would property prices stop growing? It would not, because property prices are still growing. So on a mid to long-term basis, this doesn't affect you that much, because it's about entering low and exiting high. So anything that happens in between essentially doesn't matter too much. But of course, even if there's any small variables that could happen, if we consider the worst case scenario, over long term, it would be a good gain as well. So something to consider when entering the UK market. But of course, by entering now, you do have the benefit of lower GBP and of course, the stamp duty cut as well. And of course, depending on which region you are looking at, but the growing cities, they are ongoing, continuing to grow. So we want to ride on that growth before it matures. And here's a very good chart to share with everyone here. This would be the property regional prices over a decade, I would say from 2007. So as you can see, is on a longer term is a growth basis. Of course, when we can see when financial crisis happened, start of 2007 to when EU votes to leave UK, when Brexit happens, small variables happen, but looking back now on the hindsight, we can see that property prices was never impacted by these decisions, despite the fluctuations in the market. And just to share with you in terms of the rental market as well, based on Urban Bubble report, it shows that in Manchester, for example, the average rental values are up by 15% since September 21, and rents for 2 beds are up by over 20% since September 2021. And I believe for most of my clients who have purchased with us in Manchester, many has come to me telling me, oh, Lucas, my rent actually increases by £200 from last year, which is a very good news. And we can see throughout the whole of Manchester, the rental rate has been increasing. And even in today's market, just to share with everyone, the rental market in Manchester is so active now. Some students, even they can't find a place to rent, so they do have to rent 1 hour outside of Manchester. And this is how active the rental market is in Manchester now. And, linking back to inflation, for example, that's happening, or, in the market, when local purchasers faces inflation, buyers who are on the borderline, of course, of borderline of purchasing, where their purchasing power is just at the borderline, they would keep their cash, and of course they would not purchase a property now. So that means they would look to rent a property, right? So that increases the rental market for you, and that increases the year-to-year rental increment. And for buyers who have the purchasing power, this is a good time to enter the market because you're benefiting, from it. And then you also enjoy the increasing rental market for buyers who are not financially ready to enter the market. And of course, for foreign investors, diligently invest in high-growing regions and location benefiting from wider northern powerhouse master plan. So when investing as well, we also, of course, must look into which area to invest in. So foreign investors actually pour cash into northern powerhouse. This is also from a recent news as well. More to see on how those with purchasing power can benefit from the current market conditions. And why do foreign investors pour into Northern Powerhouse? And what is Northern Powerhouse? And to share again, Northern Powerhouse is a master plan announced in 2015 by the UK Prime Minister. And the main objective is to divert the UK economy from London to North City and Manchester, Birmingham. These are the core cities for this master plan. So from this, we do see a lot of measures being taken. For example, high-speed 2 that we know are starting from London, going to Birmingham on first station, and then ending in Manchester. So that will increase the economy for northern cities. And we've got companies incentivized to move over from London to North City. We've got HSBC, who has moved to Birmingham. Goldman Sachs headquarters has moved to Birmingham as well. Booking.com to Manchester, for example. So reconstruction works in Northern England has attracted billions of funds, in fact, including from the British government and both foreign direct investment, both corporates and individuals. So from 2015, we have seen tremendous growth in Manchester. North City do benefit from it as well, and Birmingham is also benefiting greatly at today's market. And looking at Birmingham alone as well, what are the specific master plan that is ongoing in Birmingham? Now, one of the wider master plans is a big city plan, and this is a 20-year master plan with more than 1 billion budget to boost the economy of Birmingham. Now, Birmingham, for those who are not familiar, is the second largest city in the UK after London. It has one of the highest populations in the city, 2.6 million, and within city centre, approximately 1.1 million. It is creating a very well-connected and efficient city center within walking distance. So by 2030, we are looking at the city center to be expanding by 10 times. And a more relevant point in terms of investment will be expansion of office spaces, expansion of commercial spaces, expansion of sustainable residential spaces that we want to capitalize on the growth of these master plans. And we're also looking at creation of new jobs, 50,000 more new jobs upcoming. So that means more rental demand for you, better exit strategy for you as well. And this would be a wide master plan that covers different areas in Birmingham. So west side to south side, Digbeth, east side, Jewelry Quarter, and St. George. Our property are located in City Core Region, CCR, so very prime city center that is benefiting from the Snow Hill Master Plan. And if you're exploring UK property, why invest in Birmingham? A brief introduction of Birmingham here. Now, Birmingham is ranked the 7th out of the 76 cities for best performing cities in the UK for economic output as well. So it's one of the top growing cities, which we have seen as well. And it is also UK's regional entrepreneurial capital for the 7th year. We've seen a 26.8% uplift in new business from 2019. It is the most connected regional city in the UK. Approximately 5.1 billion investment put into the expand the railway, the train, and the bus rapid transit system. So the transport system is very much improved, including high speed too, which are linking cities outside of Birmingham, and which is why the population in Birmingham is currently one of the highest. Young, educated, and talented workforce, about 60% of population are aged under 35. And these are exactly the group of people that are renting long-term, which is your tenant pool. Birmingham is also a very nice place to live in, high quality of life, with highest of any regional city in the UK. And of course, as we know, it is the second largest city in terms of size, and population is soaring at the moment in Birmingham because of the measures from the government of companies moving up north as well. And not forgetting, apart from being an economic central, Birmingham is also home to 5 world-class universities. We have seen many local universities in Southeast Asia and Singapore, Malaysia. We do have bridging programs to Birmingham. The 5 main universities are Aston University, Birmingham City University, University of Birmingham, Newman Universities, and UCB. And our development is actually just between 10 to 15 minutes walk to 3 of these main universities. In terms of the student population, we are looking at one of the highest in the UK. 65,000 students graduate each year from Birmingham's 5 universities, and it has one of the highest retention rate. So around about 46% of these students actually stayed back in Birmingham to work. So these contributes more to your tenant pool and to year-on-year rental growth. And in terms of global business sentiments, it is home to big corporation, FTSE 500 companies, existing of banks, tier 1 solicitors, Big Fours, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, banks such as BC, who has moved over in 2018. Cadbury is also homegrown of Birmingham. So these are existing tenant pool from your Birmingham property. And of course, with the upcoming Snow Hill Master Plan that we'll touch later on, this increases companies that is moving into the new commercial district. So it's a very sustainable investment for you. And in terms of Snow Hill Master Plan that's happening just beside our site, we can see that Goldman Sachs is actually building its 2nd UK office in Birmingham. And this is just within 10 minutes walk to our site as well. And several companies have left large home bases for Birmingham since the pandemic as well. We've seen more companies, tech companies, moving into Birmingham. And before we go into the introduction of our Birmingham property Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf, I would like to pass to Bianca to share with you on Get Ground, how you can purchase a UK company, UK property under a UK company, and the benefits that comes with it. Please, Bianca.
Hi, Lucas. Thank you for having me today. So good evening, everyone. My name is Bianca and I am with GetGround. And at GetGround, we specialize in the setting up and the managing of property holding companies. So these are companies that are specifically designed and structured to hold investment property. So first, just a little bit of background on our company. We were founded back in 2018. We're fully supported by the UK government. We've taken a capital investment from the UK government that allowed us to build our platform. And we are also directly plugged into Companies House. And Companies House in the UK is the Business Registration Office. It's a governmental body. So today I will talk to you about how the market has shifted from people buying in their personal name to buying through a company. Then we'll talk about the benefits of property holding companies. Then we'll break down the taxes and the differences between companies and individual ownership. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we as a company can support you with all of this. So let's talk about this image that we can see here. So what we can see here is how many new property holding companies were set up in the UK each year. And as you can see, buying through a company is not something that's anything new. Tax efficiencies have always existed for companies. But then around about 2015, we can see a very strong increase in the last few years. We can talk about a very obvious market trend. So what happened? Well, in 2015, the UK government announced that as of 2017, Section 24 would come into place. And Section 24 is related to the mortgage relief. So in the past, everyone holding investment properties could offset their full mortgage interest from their tax bill. But as of 2017, that's no longer possible. So companies can still offset their full mortgage interest. Individuals only get a basic rate credit. Now, this was probably the government's biggest and boldest move to try and encourage people to use companies for their investment properties. So unlike the government here in Singapore, who basically put a stop to people investing through companies, the UK government really wants people and is actively encouraging people to use these property holding companies. And the reason for that is that it gives the government far more transparency and flexibility, or transparency and visibility for the correct taxes to be paid. Now, Section 24 was definitely successful, as we can see in this graph. So in 2019, there was a 24% increase of property holding companies being set up. The following year was another 23% increase, and last year there was a record number of companies created. Almost 48,000 new companies were set up. So last year in 2021, 65% of every single investment property was bought through a company. And before the announcement of this tax change, this was only 14%. Now, what that also means is that financing is a lot easier now to get for companies. 50% of all high street lenders will now lend to these special purpose vehicles, and there's a lot of specialist banks that will only lend to these companies. And as a result, almost a third of every single active mortgage is now a name of a company. So there's 270,000 active property holding companies in the UK today. And if you look at the numbers above, it means that 45% of these companies were set up in the last 3 years only. So why do people use limited companies? It's not just this Section 24. There's other reasons as well. So first of all, you'll have a gain in tax efficiencies, but we'll park that for now and we'll come back to that on the next slide. But it also creates limited personal liability. So if these companies are purchasing the property, what that means is that the mortgage also sits within the company. And that means that your TDSR is not affected here in Singapore. And companies were designed to be efficient. So investment properties, technically they're a business. So why not run them as a business? Now, we at GetGround, we follow a quite unique approach, and that is that each company can only hold one property. And what you're essentially doing that way, you are building a firewall in between each investment property. So if one investment goes a bit wrong, the bank can never repossess any of your other properties. They are fully protected and fully ring-fenced by its own legal entity. Then it's also a lot easier to buy and sell with other people. So for instance, you can have, in personal name, you can only have 4 legal owners, but if you are buying through a company, we would allow up to 8 different shareholders. But it's especially useful if you are buying with someone that's not part of your family, that's not your spouse, for example. And if one individual injects more cash into the purchase, then that is also how you would distribute the shares. So the shareholders agreement and the owner's loan document will outline exactly who owns what. So again, it's a very safe way of investing with a business partner. Then it also allows for improved estate and inheritance planning, because the mechanism of gifting shares is far more cost efficient and time efficient than the mechanism of gifting property. If you are gifting shares, you do not need to have a solicitor in place. We are actually FCA regulated, and the FCA is the Financial Conduct Authority. So we would handle these share transfers for you, and we can action those in a matter of days. The only cost payable on gifting shares is stamp duty on the value of the shares, which is only 0.5%. So what you can do is you can very easily gift more and more shares to your children the more mature they become. And of course, the sooner you gift shares, the more likely it is that inheritance tax is no longer payable. And then there's access to a very well-developed mortgage market. And we've already mentioned that earlier, so we'll move on from here. So you could improve your investment return up to 66% simply by buying through a company. And that is all calculated through the taxes. So the easiest way to break it down is to see the investment journey in 3 different stages. That's the point of purchase, then the period of ownership, and then the point of sale. So the first tax payable is stamp duty land tax. And stamp duty land tax is exactly the same for individuals as it is for companies if we are talking about an investment property rented to third parties. Now, sadly, the 2% non-resident rate would still apply, even though the company is a UK-based company. The government will look at from where the company is controlled. So if one of the shareholders is overseas, it would trigger the 2% non-resident rate, just like it would if you are buying in your personal name. So this is the easy one. There's no advantage and there's no disadvantage. Now, then we move on to the period of ownership. There's 2 key differences. The first one is what triggered this change in the market, is Section 24. And that is that companies can offset their full mortgage interest from their tax bill. Individuals get a basic rate credit only. The other difference is the tax that you pay on the income. So individuals pay income tax, companies pay corporation tax. Essentially, it's the same, we just call it different. So income tax will be higher the more money that you earn in the UK. It starts with 19% and the maximum rate is 45%. But companies, they just pay a flat rate of 19% corporation tax, regardless of how much income that company has. Now, then there's several ways of taking money out of the company in a very efficient way. You could either repay the owner's loan or you can take a dividend income. Now, the owner's loan is all of your cash injection. So these companies, of course, when they buy the properties, they don't have any money. So the company will be borrowing money from you as the company director. And that is logged as an owner's loan. So when you're taking money out by ways of owner's loan repayment, that money was always yours. So that's not taxed at all. Now, the other way is taking a dividend income, and the recommendation for anyone based in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, or the Middle East is to take a dividend income. And the reason for that is that there is no dividend tax in the UK for non-UK residents, and there's no dividend tax on overseas income here in Asia either. So then let's move on to the point of sale, the final stage. So if you were to sell a property that you own in your own personal name, an investment property, you will be paying capital gains tax on the profit. So capital gains tax is a maximum rate of 28%. Now, companies, they only ever pay corporation tax, and corporation tax is 19%. And this is a very, very big saving, 19% versus 28%. That's almost a third on taxes that you save on exit. Now, this is the main reason why people in the past have always bought through companies. It is a saving on taxes on exit. Now, with our model, the one company, one property model, there's a second way of purchasing, or a second way of selling, rather. And that is by selling 100% of the company shares. So if you are selling to another investor, then the investor can choose to buy your company. And if they are buying your company, what that means is that there's no land transaction taking place because the ownership of the property remains exactly the same. And that means that your buyer does not pay any stamp duty land tax on purchase. So that's a big saving to your buyer. So that means that your property is easier to sell because essentially your property is cheaper to purchase compared to the exact same property next door. But what we have seen in real life when these transactions were happening is that the saving on stamp duty land tax was equally split between the buyer and the seller, which means that you could potentially sell at a higher price. Your buyer is still saving thousands of pounds, so that's a win-win situation. But also, you are no longer selling property. You are selling shares. And capital gains tax on shares is only a maximum rate of 20%. So again, a very significant saving on exit. Now, I'll just recap on this. So companies can offset their full mortgage interest from their tax bill. Companies pay lower taxes on the income. There's two ways of taking very efficiently taking money out of the company, and that's the owner's loan repayment or a dividend income. Neither of these would incur any additional taxes. And then there's two ways of selling. You either sell the property, paying 19% corporation tax instead of 28% capital gains tax, or you are selling the company and you'll be paying 20% capital gains tax on the shares instead of 28% capital gains tax on the property. So what do we then do as a company? How can we support you with all of this? So we are a technology company, and as mentioned before, we are fully supported by the UK government. So we would help you with setting up the limited company. And we do that very quickly because our technology is directly plugged into company's house, and we can set up this company within 48 hours. We provide all of the legal documentation related to the structure of the company, and we also provide you with a UK company business account. Now, this business account is what you will use for all of your income and all of your expenditure, because once the company is set up, we will then take on the role of company secretary, and we will do everything required to managing that company. And that includes all of the accounting, the bookkeeping, the company auditing, the annual tax filing, and it's also our head office address that will act as the company's office address because that is open to the public. You do not want to use your own address on there. So there's two ways of structuring your company. You can either set up a standalone company or you can set up a holding company with subsidiary companies below it. Depending on your investment strategy and the type of property that you're purchasing, we can give you some recommendation on which structure is the correct one for you. So we handle a very simple and transparent fee structure. There's two components to our fees. There's a one-time setup fee, which will give you your fully operational business. So that includes the company setup, the legal documentation, the web filing with Companies House, as well as a UK company business account. And you only pay that for your first two companies with us. If you are building a portfolio for the third company onwards, we would waive the setup fee. And then we have ongoing management costs of £19 plus VAT per month, which is a total of £228 per year. And that includes all of the accounting, the bookkeeping, the company auditing, all of the secretarial services, as well as the annual tax filing. So that's all from me. So I'll pass you back to Lucas. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Bianca. Yep. So we'll look into the introduction of our latest development in central Birmingham, Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf. Now, Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf is located in Prime City Centre, postcode of B46LN Prinsip Street. We are the developer Select Property Group. TOP completion is in Q2 2024, 22 levels plus ground floor, 266 units in total, and a very special tenure of 99 years leasehold. Now, most apartments in UK are at 250 years leasehold. And this is our fifth development under the Affinity Living branded residences. So amenities come with large contemporary living spaces, state-of-the-art gymnasium, rooftop terrace, a waterfront garden courtyard, resident lounge, TV lounge area, a co-working space, and also private meeting booth. And in terms of location, very strategic. This is about 8 minutes walk to the closest train station, the Snow Hill train station, and 11 minutes walk to the Como Road Financial District, the most prestigious business address in Birmingham. And service charges is between £3 to £350 per square feet per annum. This is how Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf looks like. Certain stacks goes up to level 5, and a larger stack goes up to level 22. And certain units are facing a courtyard, as we can see in the middle. And this is also located by a canal, by a river. So very nice location. Some units are facing city center. But more importantly, the value of this property is in its location, because this is close to central business district, close to universities, close to upcoming Curzon Street train station, and also close to the main shopping district, Bullring Grand Central. Now, as we can see on the map here, this would be the location of Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf. And if you walk down the street for about 7 minutes, you will reach the closest train station, the Snow Hill train station. And Snow Hill train station is the start of the main central business district, CBD, Como Road, which is the most prestigious business address in Birmingham. So these are where all the big fours, the banks, the law firms, the companies are located at, and this is where your tenant pools are located at. Home to 500 companies, over 35,000 population, which will be your tenant pool. And of course, in terms of train line, this is also just about 12 minutes walking distance to the upcoming Curzon Street train station. Now, the Curzon Street train station is where the high-speed 2 from London will be stopping at. So when that happens in 2029 to 2030, this will increase further the connectivity between both cities and increase further the population growth to Birmingham. More jobs will be created to contribute to the tenant pool of central Birmingham. And of course, this is also close to Bullring Grand Central. For those who are aware, now Bullring Grand Central is a very large famous address for shopping, similar to Orchard in Singapore, Pavilion in KL, I would say. So we are just about 10 to 15 minutes walking distance to Bullring Grand Central, and also close to 3 main universities. Aston University is about 10 to 15 minutes walk away, same as Birmingham City University. Now, as you can see, we are close to universities, we are close to CBD or tenant pool, we are close to lifestyle amenities where the high streets of restaurants and bars are located at, and we are close to also the upcoming train station. And this would be the qualities, I would look for when investing, because when you are close to tenant pools, transport, lifestyle amenities, these are where people want to live in. This is where they want to rent. So with demand for such location and property and amenities of Affinity Living, this will be a long-term consistent investment for you. And worth to mention as well, with Birmingham, it is still in the early phases of growing. So we still get to invest in the city center area. Now, as the city grows, lands are very scarce in the main core region. So as the city grows, you will see new launches are being built in borderline zone 2, but prices will be catching up. So at today's timing, it's great because you still get to invest in such prime location, and you can ride on the growth of the Snow Hill master plan for the next 10 to 20 years. And what is a Snow Hill master plan? Now, the Snow Hill master plan is a master plan that is aimed to promote the regeneration area of the business district in the Como Road district, which is about 7 minutes walk from our site as well. And this is a 20 years master plan, including a 50 million investment into the Snow Hill station. So the main measures is to expand more office spaces, to expand new commercial district. So that means more companies, more work opportunities, and more tenant pool as we speak. And worth to mention as well, on the recent news in August 2022, the Birmingham Council has actually completed a 26.48 million purchase of land and offices in the Como Road district as part of the measures of Snow Hill Master Plan. So it is an ongoing master plan as we speak. So the benefit of entering into this location is really to tap into the Snow Hill Master Plan on a longer term basis. And to share more on Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf, now Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf is our 5th development under the Affinity Living branded residences. So we do have the previous 4 Affinity Living branded residences under our company, which is all completed, sold out, and performing well at the moment. So we've got Affinity Living Riverview and Riverside located in central Manchester. Affinity Living Embankment West located in shopping district of Manchester as well. Now, all properties under the Affinity Living branded residences are designed the same way, having the same services, and it is designed specifically for the rental market. So how we do this is that before we create the branding, we think of what the tenant requires. And what is the way to maintain high rebooking rates. So all Affinity Living residences, comes with very similar facilities, 24/7 concierge, co-working space, private meeting booth, cinema lounge. We've got weekly events as well. That creates a very, very vibrant community among the tenants. And when a sense of community is created, that ensures a very high rebooking rate for the tenants to continue living in. So ensuring a consistent returns for you as investor as well. And to share more on Affinity Living properties as well, this comes from our branded student property Vita, where we manage it the same way. So we do have 25 Vita students across UK for those who are familiar. And these are also a streamlined chain properties that we manage very well. In fact, Mapletree in Singapore has also acquired about 300 million Singapore dollars of our Vita student residences last year. And Deutsche Bank has bought 9 of the residences at 600 million pounds in 2019. So it's a very proven investment model for our investors. And Affinity Living is essentially the buy-to-let version of Vita Student that we manage the same way. And if we take a look at the case study for previous Affinity Living Riverside, this is 100% occupied. This is also located just 2 minutes away from the CBD in Manchester. And on annual rental renewal basis, we've seen good increase of rental rate. So averagely, we are looking at about £1,250 per month in terms of rental. And here would be the location for Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf, as we have touched on earlier. So very close to universities, train station. For those who are interested, do get in touch. We'll share more onto these brochures and materials for you to study if you're keen to explore further. And these are some of the images of Lancaster Wharf. Now, all units are readily tenanted on handover. So on TOP, when you receive your keys, we will rent your property out for you. So all kitchen appliances are included. Kitchens are fully fitted. Bathroom as well as fully fitted. It doesn't come with loose furniture, but it is readily tenanted on handover. A very premium, modern, good quality appliances being given as well. For those who are keen, we will share with you the Affinity Living, the previous Affinity Living, how they look like, so we can have an idea of the quality of the building. But we use tier 1 contractors, of course, good materials as well for all Affinity Living branded residences. And these are the actual images of previous Affinity Living branded residences in Manchester. So the team and the layout were very similar, a good reference as to how Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf would look like. So for rental, 1 and 2 bedrooms are actually the best for rental. They do rent very fast. 2 bed caters to the mass market. 1 beds are rented very fast in the market too. Here will be a video of the previous Affinity Living residences for everyone to have an idea of how Affinity Living branded residences. And looking at the floor plan of Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf, here will be a typical floor. We've got the red ones being the one bedroom and the blue ones being the two bedrooms. So we've got certain units facing the river in the courtyard, certain units facing the city, and of course some units are facing the university area where we have a big Tesco Express just across the road as well. For those who are keen, we will then recommend some units for you to consider. So for example, if we are looking at an entry level one bedroom here, this is around about 230k pounds in investment capital, size of 471 square feet. So very functional layout, squarish one bedroom, one bath for single professionals to rent. One bed goes very fast in the rental market. And take, for example, a two-bedder would range from around about 350k pounds for two bedroom, size of 670 to 750 square feet. And for this particular unit, we are looking at two same size bedroom, living room and a bathroom. So this would be good for couples or singles who wants to co-rent their apartment. And if we take a look at the sample calculation of a one bedroom, now the one bedroom, we're looking at estimated rent of 1,002 to 1,003 achieved. And in terms of running fees, the management fee here will be 10% plus VAT. So this will be the fees for renting out the property for you. Maintenance fees between £3 to £350 per square feet per annum. So here we're using £350 as calculation. And ground rent for UK is now peppercorn 0, starting from 1st July 2022 for all new builds. So in terms of net returns, we are looking at typically between 4.5 to 5% in terms of your net rental yield. And in terms of payment plans, this is based on a summer payment plan that we have at the moment. If you're keen to reserve a unit, your initial booking fee is £5,000. And after which you'll go into the exchange of contract process, and that will take about a month's time with a UK solicitor. And your first installment would be an investment of 15% down payment payable to your solicitor. So this is payable about a month after your booking. And your next 15% is due in February next year. And of course, legal fees between £1,000 to £2,000. And there's no payment until completion in 2024. So on completion, you pay your balance 70% minus the 5,000 deposit paid and your stamp duty. And that will be the end of the webinar today. I hope there's good insight shared to everyone here. And for those who are keen to explore UK property, to find out more or keen to have the development details for Affinity Living Lancaster Wharf, do get in touch with us, and myself or my team will then approach you to be in contact with you to assist you further from there. So thank you for your time. I hope you have a good evening ahead. Thank you.